Yeah, that's it.
So, what was the context behind all this, Bert?
Well, the group was very new, and I had been in the group not quite from the beginning, but almost from the beginning. And there was a lady I knew there who, I had met at some conferences, and she was chairing the group at the time. Her name was Chris. What's her?
Roundtree?
Sorry, Sarah.
Which one?
Hmm?
Chris, you don't mean the rocks.
Sorry,
Frankie
Chris.
Lane Rock.
Hmm?
Frankie Lane Rock.
The lady in the Amnesty group. What was her name again?
Chris Roundtree.
No. Anyway, sorry about that. Yeah, and so she knew me a little bit and asked if I wanted to join the group, and I was happy to do so. It seemed quite interesting. This was a long time ago, and at the time my memory was pretty reasonable, but as you can see, it's worn down a bit since then, gone a bit rusty. Well, we met in people's houses then. The group had started off in Cars Lane Centre, I believe, and mainly with people belonging to the church then. But then it broadened out a bit and started moving around, taking in turns in people's houses. The group had a prisoner of conscience, but there wasn't any coordinator at the time. So, well, I wasn't too occupied with anything, so I took it on and would see how it went. And his name was Razmik Markosian. He was Armenian. He lived in Armenia, Soviet Armenia at the time, which was a republic of the Soviet Union at the time. Since then, Armenia is independent, more or less. And of course, the Soviet Union then, this was not too long after the Second World War, was very powerful. Russia today is still quite powerful, but then it was even stronger. Whether it deserved to be or not is another matter. I'd always been interested, since a long time going back, in Russia, politically, historically, artistically, etc. And I was planning for my holiday, and I thought, why not Russia? And that's how it came to be. But not just purely to see around, travel around, see the tourist resorts and so on, however interesting and fun that might be. But I thought, why not combine it with a prisoner of conscience? Now, he was imprisoned at the time, so there wouldn't be any chance to actually see him personally, although that would have been marvelous. Our group went, one of the places we went to, which was on the agenda, was Yerevan, the capital of Armenia. And when we were there, I linked up a bit with, I didn't really know her that very much, but she seemed a nice girl, and we sort of got talking about things. And I told her, I put her in the picture about Razmik, our prisoner of conscience, and asked if she'd be prepared to help out a little bit, because she spoke Russian, and I'm not exactly a multilingualist by any stretch of the imagination. Anyway, we walked around in Yerevan to try and find his address. Now, that was very easily said, not so easily done, because the numbers and names of streets and so on, it was, to put it mildly, very, very complicated. But however, we more or less excused ourselves from the group and wandered around a bit, and were trying to detect where this address of the family was. And she was able to ask people in Russian, and which I was very grateful for. And after a lot of struggling, we found our way there eventually to their house. And we introduced ourselves. I explained that she was a friend and who was very helpful and trying to, join in finding the people, the family, which we were very happy to do. And I was a member of Amnesty in Birmingham, UK, and I explained that as a group, we've been trying to help out with their relatives, their son and relative. We wished them all very well, and we asked if there was any way we could help out further, etc., etc. Well, it was quite a big family in this house, and we were both invited in, and we received, that was quite unnecessary, but we received hospitality and friendship, and they were very helpful. And we spent a few happy hours with this family, and we asked them to pass on, messages from our group in Birmingham and from ourselves, of course, included, which they were going to do. Razmik, the reason he was imprisoned was a very sad case, actually, but not unusual at all in Soviet Union of those days. And one might well ask, is it much better nowadays? Maybe it isn't that much better, but that's arguable. Anyway, the reason he was in prison was that he believed in Armenia from a nationalist point of view, and I believe he had unfurled some Armenian flag, something like that, at a time when it was not considered by the authorities to be an appropriate thing to do. He was arrested and spent some years in prison, sadly. But as far as we know, he was eventually released, and Armenia today has achieved the aims broadly, as one understands, that Razmik Markosian and his friends were aiming for, and that was for a free and independent Armenia. And it's a long time ago, but it's a moving situation to think back on, and it was part of the history, I like to think, of the group today. And thank you for this wonderful opportunity to be able to say a few words in all simplicity. And if there's any questions, I'll try and answer.
Yeah, there was one thing I wanted to ask. I know that the Soviet Union at the time, this was in the late 40s, early 50s?
No, this was after the Second World War.
So is it just in the late 40s?
Yeah, I'm not let's see.
I think this will have been in the later,
sorry.
would have been the 70s, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't
Because
that
this
near to
group
the
was
Second
set
World.
up sort
It was
of
in the
70s.
Yeah, but the group started round
Yeah.
about
But I
in
was
the
just
70s.
thinking that there was they used to have a lot of, for foreigners, they used to have a lot of minders that would sort of hang around with them and sort of follow them. And I was just wondering
Yes.
how you were able to sort of move around in the country as freely as you did. That's all the question, because I know
Well-
that there was a lot of secret police, and especially in the 70s, they've gotten quite coordinated on that
Yes,
front.
there was, and there was another instance as well when a few of us, not this lady I just mentioned, but there were 4 of us, others from the group, and we didn't actually ask the lady in charge, may we go so and so, because she would have just said
She
yes.
would have said no.
Yeah. So what we did, we just quietly slipped away,
Oh,
and we knew where to meet up with the group again. And they may not have been too happy about the situation, but we actually managed to catch a train. Again, the others spoke Russian, except myself, and we got tickets to travel to what's it called, the Gori in let's see, sorry, I'll mix up. Where, well, that was Stalin's hometown.
Was it
Oh, yeah.
Georgia?
and
Mhm.
it was in Georgia.
In Georgia, yes, of
yeah.
course. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and we had a very interesting time there. Yeah, and when we were in Georgia, I try not to divert too much, but there were actually tanks out in the streets. And you're right about there were secret police and so on.
Yeah,
around.
it's just
So-
so, but you
yeah,
had
yeah.
Russian speakers, so it was easier to slip out, and you had Russian speaking people,
Yeah,
so it was
yeah, we
easier
did,
to slip out.
and that helped enormously.
Yeah.
But the thing was in that kind of situation or any similar situation is not to draw too much attention
Oh, of
to
course,
yourself.
yeah.
Yeah, and
Head
we
down.
were tourists, and they might well have said something, and
Not make yourself too obviously touristy.
no, that's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the Soviet authorities in those days would not have been happy about if they knew what we were up to. But as far as we were concerned, tough luck. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I agree.
We achieved something. It may not have been an enormous amount, but
Small
something.
things help.
Exactly. So small steps, adds up to a walk of 1,000 miles. Somebody said, yeah.
Well,
Anything
Bert,
else? Or
thank you very much, Bert.
thank you, thank you. Thank you. And I'm sure there are others who are good speakers, but I appreciate
Bert, that was fantastic.
Yeah, no, that was really
I've
good.
got to say thank you so much, and I just think you were so brave, and I think I mean
I had a
that for
scary
me
thing
that's
to
what
do.
Amnesty's
Yeah.
about. It's about touching people and just shining even a small bit of light on people who can't help themselves. So good for you. I think it's brilliant.
I think it worked out quite well. Of course, it would have been nice if we'd seen the prisoner himself.
But that wasn't going to happen.
No, but indirectly, we made some kind of contact.
Yeah.
Do you know what happened to him afterwards? Okay.
There was talk that he had been released, and that's something we just had to take on trust. But I think today, there's a different situation with Armenia and with many other formerly republics in what was Soviet Union, that they've got some kind of relative freedom anyway, and there's lots of different nations around Russia itself, and that has to be a good thing compared to what it was before.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Bert.
Thanks a lot.